My son is, among other things, a football coach. He played on local community teams for the university and did a year as a scholarship student at a college in California, which he had a great time and learned a lot more about football. He began his career throwing the ball around with me and his friends at the local school grounds at the end of the block. And sometimes on the street in front of our house. Now, the street was a quiet residential street in the southeast end of town, and all of the Nay-Boors were especially worried because we all parked our cars curbside, and they were concerned that the ball would smash their windshield or the roof of their car or something, or go all the way into smashing the front windows of their house. None of the above ever happened. Nevertheless, they weren't happy to see us out there. Every so often, when we could tell that they were peeking behind the blinds or curtains, we would come out without any football and mime playing football, and we're both actors, and Sean was particularly adept at making it look like all the parts of his fingers were reaching out to catch that ball at the last second. We did this for our own amusement, of course. It was clear that our neighbours understood that we were making fun of them, and they were suitably irritated, even more than usual, which was our goal, of course. Now, I've developed a lifelong studied hopelessness about doing practical things like changing light bulbs. Nevertheless, when my daughter was 2 years old, I got this idea into my head to build a great big cedar fence around the front yard so she and the dog could safely play there. So, man, I mean, I got books, I studied, I had to, rent equipment to dig posts for holes for the post, poured cement, got the posts in, got the cedar, so on, built a gate with a latch, and man, stood back, it was like I built a Taj Mahal or something. I was very proud of it. Until one day, about a month later, I was driving home up the street and I see that the whole east wall of my precious fence had been painted a puke green. Suspecting it was yet another betrayal of my wife's, I went in the house accusatorily, raging, and she said, no, it's the lovely butcher next door. So I go next door to see the butcher and his shrew wife. The shrew answers, and I say to her, what are you doing? You painted the side of my fence? She said, well, it's on our side. I painted on our side. I said, yeah, but it's my fence. You couldn't have come and talked to me about this? She said, well, it doesn't fit the neighborhood. Doesn't fit the neighborhood? Well, only a few months before this fence painting incident, across the street, a policeman came out on the front lawn and shot himself and his wife. She survived. He didn't. So all I could think to say to my fence painting neighbor was, yeah, well, it's not quite as horrible, I guess, as shooting yourself and your wife on the front lawn. So the lesson of this, pickle, when you're buying that new condo, if you're a zillionaire and can afford a house in this neighborhood, don't worry so much about the tile splash, in the kitchen. Check out the neighbours first.